Bring the heart.
It's time to get loud.
Let's go! Because this is Betfred Super League.
Bring it on.
Got me here. It took a big chunk out of me. Bleeding. It's bleeding. Oh no, it's bleeding. The thing just ripped my ear off. What do you think?
Hello again and welcome along once more to Eddie and Stevo, the podcast, the best 30 minutes or so that you'll hear about the great game of rugby league, sponsored as always by our friends at Betfred. Now, if you were with us this time last week, you'll remember that we bon voyaged Stevo, because right now he's somewhere between here and Australia. He's heading home for a couple of months, but never fear, he's still contactable, even though he is 12,000 miles away. I believe they have got Wi-Fi down there, so he will be back with us before too long. While he's away, it's always a pleasure to welcome special guests to the podcast. And this week, it's none other than the man who took over from Stevo in the Sky commentary box with me, Terry O'Connor, of course. Tez, great to see you again and to have your company this week. Thanks very much for being here.
You're all right, Eddie. You're all right. Just obviously a lot of similarities between me and Stevo. We're both overweight. We're both bald. So that's the reason why I got the call, I presume.
Absolutely. You got the nod for exactly those reasons. Look, let's talk about your rugby league life. There's been a constant companion alongside you for all of these years. Your old mate Barry McDermott. I know he's your greatest pal. And way back when it all started in your amateur days, he was with you on that Bala tour to New Zealand, and you've never been able to shake him off since, have you?
No, he's worse than the wife, to be fair, and he always turns up, and even when you go shopping down in town, people are like that, where's Barry? How come he's not with mine? I don't bloody live with him. We do have separate lives, you know. But no, it was good, Ed, and as you know, you've known us both, that it wasn't like a forged relationship. We go back to the amateur days, like you said, that we played against each other from 15, 16 years of age, and then we both played North West Counties, played for Bala, and so that Bala tour that you mentioned, like, I look back on it and see the players that went on to have a professional career, but like the prop forwards that we had in there was myself, there was Barry, there was Paul Anderson, there was Darren Fleary, and all four of us were lucky enough to go and play for the full national side. But we went down under when we were 19. We didn't manage to win a test, Eddie. But
nothing unusual there.
No, but what I will tell you is every brawl that we had with them, we battered them.
And nothing unusual there either. But, you know, you're a Widnes lad. You've been born and bred in Widnes. You still live in Widnes now. But you didn't sign for your hometown club. You ended up at Salford.
Yeah. I'm a real proud Widnesian. Like I'm very thankful for the town that where I've come from. And when I say it that way, because when I was a kid, my childhood heroes all played down at Norton Park, and Steve O'Neill, who was my big inspiration in the professional game, was one that I always looked up to. I always aspired to be him, and the reason why I went and signed for Salford was because he was the academy coach at the time, and assistant coach at Salford, along with Kevin Tamati, another player who played for Widnes. And at the time, I had the opportunity of going to Wigan and Saints and Salford. And I picked Salford, and everyone thought it was crazy. But the way I was thinking about it back then in the day was that Wigan's reserve side was as good as most first teams in the competition, and that if at Salford I could get an opportunity a bit earlier under the guidance of Steve O'Neill, I thought that would pay dividends for me, because if him and Kevin couldn't teach me about the game, well, nobody could. So fortunate enough that it paid off for me, and managed then to to get a career like at Salford, then on to Wigan, then obviously my hometown club.
Absolutely, and it obviously has worked for you, because I've looked at the records. Salford Young Player of the Year, that must have been about 100 years ago. A young player. Man of the match against Wigan in a Regal Trophy quarter-final at the Willows. Is that the day, you think, that Wigan suddenly became interested in you?
Yeah, well, it was one of them, wasn't it? No, like years ago. Anyone who ever played well against Wigan, Wigan were that big, they'd turn around and sign them. Remember Neil Cowie doing it, Martin Hall, both of them when they played for Rochdale against Wigan, and Nigel Wright when he was at Wakefield, Henry Paul when he was at Wakefield. It always seemed Gary Connolly, yeah, but Gary Connolly was really good compared to us lot. But yeah, it was. It's funny, Eddie, because back then Wigan were the team, weren't they? They were probably the only professional team, like out and out. The whole squad were full-time pros. So to have an opportunity to go there and play for them was immense. In our household, we all grew up hating Wigan. My mum and dad hated Wigan. But I tell you what, when I signed for them, my mum and dad were the biggest fans.
Well, of course they would be, absolutely. And I tell you what, Salford were prepared to were happy as well, because Wigan were prepared to pay some good money for you. What was it? £95,000 plus Sam Panaper, Kiwi international legend. And if you ever played for Great Britain, which you did, another £10,000. Now, way back in the 60s and the 50s when this all happened, that was massive. That was massive money.
Yeah, who the hell would pay even a fiver for me, let alone 105 grand and the great Sam Panaper? Yeah, but that was the money that they had. You know, like it was back in the day. My contract was up, and Salford did make a play to keep me, but I think it was a bit of a play that. Yeah, but look, we're going to give you a deal here, but ideally we want you to go because we want the money and we want a good player in return for you. So yeah, it was. I still talk to Ian Blease about it because I'm still owed money from when.
Are you?
Yeah. So I signed for them in '91, left in '94, and I'm still owed money from Salford.
Now that's where the similarity between you and Stevo continues on, because he claims he's still owed money by Dewsbury from 1970, whatever it was that he went to Penrith in Australia.
He'd be a multi-millionaire now if he got that money, wouldn't he?
But I think he is a multi-millionaire anyway. You know, he's on a permanent holiday, as you well know. Look, you won the Cup, you won the old Charity Shield. I wish that was still on the calendar. Yeah. Regal Trophy, Premierships. And in 1998, the inaugural grand final against the Leeds Rhino. Over 300 appearances, Super League Dream Team 4 times. No prop forward, Terry, has ever made the Dream Team 4 times. Do you know that?
Well, I think they have now with Jamie Peacock.
Not sure he's done 4, has he? Mind you, listen, Wikipedia can be edited.
Yeah. I know that Barry McDermott got in it once, and I've always said he can have one of mine if he wants. Mate, I'm a fat kid from Widnes, Eddie. Do you know what I mean? You know, obviously, you know I am. And I look back and I always say, very fortunate. You get paid to play rugby league, like something that you dreamed of as a kid. You pick up a ball as 7 or 8 year old, and to think that moment would change your life forever, which it has. Like, I owe everything to the game, and I say that to everybody. And I've lived my dream, played in big games, gone around the world, loved my time as a professional rugby player, and I never look back wanting to play the game.
No.
Do you know what? I'm not like an ex-player that I don't miss the game. I was a custodian of my jersey at the time, and I knew that from a young age, it was always drummed into me by my dad, to be fair. And probably because he thought that I'd never go on and have a decent career. he always used to say to me, look, your career could pass you by. You might not get the contract that you want. You might get injured. You've got to make sure you have something outside of the game. So from 19, 20 years of age, I always knew that I had to work away from rugby. And it kept me grounded, like for those big monumental games when you play in like a grand final or a Challenge Cup. I think that it does help you that you're grounded and you have things away from the sport so you can concentrate when it's time to play. You obviously play.
Absolutely. And lo and behold, you get to Wigan, and who follows you to Wigan? Barry McDermott.
Yeah. So he rocked up. So I think more or less that I signed for them in that Regal Trophy game you mentioned before. We played them, and to be fair, we should have beat them in that game. And I signed for them a couple of weeks later than that. And then Barry signed for them probably 2 or 3 months after that. So obviously he was second choice as well. And we both went there, and you know what, it was brilliant because, like you know, that we are genuine best mates, and
yes.
We do enjoy each other's companies. Like our kids have grown up together, like the girls have grew up together, like best men at each other's wedding, and like godparents each other's kids. So everything around me and him have been together, but then obviously he only lasted 1 year, didn't he?
You never thought about going to Leeds with him then? No.
No. To be fair, I was quite glad that he left. I was quite glad that he left.
But then he showed up at Widnes when you ended up there.
Yeah, but then he just turned up for the money. I'll be honest. He turned up for the money, and he'd heard that the Championship was a bit tougher, and you could get away with a lot more in the Championship, like scuffles and fights, and the refs would turn a blind eye. So that was made for Barry back in the day. So he loved it.
Well, I think he claims he's been to the disciplinary committee more time than anybody else, but he always claimed that it was mistaken identity, wasn't it?
Them big extensions that happened over in the RFL headquarters, he paid for the majority of that with all his fines.
But lo and behold, then you both hang up your boots and you get into the broadcasting business. And he's there again. I mean, double acts, Terry. I mean, you know, Stevo and I were called a double act. You and Barry now are the new double act, the new kids on the block. It works, doesn't it? It works because you know when to shut up. He knows when to come in. You know when to come in and when he's struggling, you know?
Yeah.
It works.
Well, do you know what? Like, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people out there say we're both struggling. But
they say that about all of us.
Yeah, there'll never be I'll say it, Eddie, there'll never be an Eddie and Stevo, do you know, ever again. I'm not just saying that because you're here. I've said it before, and I say it on all platforms wherever I speak, that was like a once in a lifetime sort of thing. And like we just pinch ourselves because you best mates going to work with each other, like watching a game, in awe of the players, and mate, lucky to get an opportunity. Like 31 years, I've been in the sport, you know, professional sport, and now in the media side. I couldn't even spell media when I was at school, let alone think I was going to have a job in media. I thought I was going to get back into on the building sites, and when I finished, because I'm a joiner by trade, so I just thought that when I finished rugby, that would be my natural path. And like I said, just luckily for me and for Barry, that we had someone like you and old Neville Smith, who believed in us and gave us an opportunity to do something that we loved. And yeah, we've really enjoyed the time.
No, it was great fun when you were both there, and when we were all there together. It was fantastic. Yeah. I mean, the last 2 years have been difficult from every aspect of life. I would imagine being in the commentary box when the grounds were empty and the players could hear every word that you said about
Eddie,
them.
do you know what? I'm looking in your eyes now, and I remember a game that we did at Halifax. And it was one of the championship games, and we were at scaffolding. On the platform where we were doing the commentary from was right on the touchline. And we were there, and there was nobody on our side. No. There was nobody on our side, no fans at all. I remember you doing the commentary, and all of a sudden it's like, it's obvious that the winger could hear everything that you were saying, and you absolutely bottled it.
I did.
You bottled it because he kept on looking up to us what we were saying, and that was like that in the, you know, obviously in the pandemic, which isn't funny, but you go to work and again, how privileged, like watching live sport. We were one of the few fortunate people to go in the grounds. But we would have, I'd have Billy Painter, who one of the colleagues at Sky. He was sat on the other side of where we were doing commentary at Headingley, And he texts me up at half-time saying, look, I'm being serious here. For God's sake, will you just tone it down a bit? He said, all I can hear is you shouting.
Difficult, isn't it? Difficult. All the players hearing every word that you say.
Everything. And all of them, to be fair to them, mate, they have all said to me, Gordon Bennett, we were glad when the fans come back in, because all we could hear was commentary.
Shut you up. Yeah, exactly.
All we could hear was commentary.
Wow. You've never... You've never called anyone an old boiler, though, no?
No, someone who has, though.
Just for people who don't know, it was a Wigan Saints match over Easter, and St Helens had, well, they were the odds-on favourites.
Yeah.
You at Wigan had so many youngsters in, you were never ever going to win, but you got a famous win. And Neville Smith showed all these young Wigan players, and the last shot he showed was of you. And I said, the youngsters are delighted, and I thought, what can I call it? Even the old boilers like Terry O'Connor. And I thought, oh God, what have I said? And I came looking for you,
Mate,
remember?
straight after you absolutely bricked it. you bottled it. As soon as the lift doors opened on the top floor at the DW Stadium, where you and Stevo used to hold court at the end of the bar, mate, you've more or less ushered me over straight away. You've come up and said, look, I do have to apologise for what I've said.
I thought it was going to be a court case.
Yeah, but, mate, do you know what?
You've been called worse, have you?
Oh, called worse every minute, every day. I don't think it was that game. I think it was, it might have been the game previous to that we played against Saints. And this is quite lucky that the Sky cameras didn't pick it up. I've gone back to the back line. We scored a try. Andrew Farrell's lining up the ball. It's falling off. So I'm in front of the whole Saints, like just packed out the stand behind the sticks, and they absolutely just ripped into me. Oh, they hammered me. Andrew Farrell's trying to tee the ball up. It's falling off, so it just gives them more time to give it me. So I turn round and they're all calling you fat so and so. So I turn round. As soon as I turn round, and I just picked out this one bloke, and he said something. I give him a bit of a mouthful back, but then started laughing. Then the whole stand turned on me, like proper turned on me. So me thinking, yeah, Tez, bit of a joker. Like me pants more or less fell down. All my shorts fell down and exposed my backside to the Saints fans.
Oh, right, okay.
And,
yeah. A complete accident.
Yeah, complete accident. Then that was it. The whole stand were just after kicking me head in. And so much so that after the game I was getting changed, and luckily enough we beat them. All the stewards and like security staff would come in and said, look, you best not go out the front. I said why? Said there must be about 300 Saints fans waiting for you. Said,
so you snuck home?
No, they said you've upset some of them. So I thought, oh God, here we go. So I said, right, who's going to come outside with me here just to see? If I've upset someone, I'm genuinely going to apologise. So I swear to God, every one of my teammates, bar one, put their head down and said, no, we're not going. Craig Smith came out with me. I apologised to the fans and that was it. But
they must have forgiven you.
Yeah, well,
because they're paying the subscriptions now and they're watching you on the telly. They must have forgiven you.
But do you know what I did? Like, I'd like to think that back then, as a player, and I was a bit of a character. Do you know, like I was rubbish at rugby, but blimmin' hell, I was a good sledger. I had like a quick wit that had always sometimes get me in a bit of trouble, but I did enjoy sort of like the banter with fans and the banter with players that you were playing against, and that was part of the game back then.
It's gone a bit, that, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's gone a bit sanitised. Is that the right word at the moment? Would you agree with that?
I just think that, do you know, like, sanitised in there's people always say it's not the same as what it was, and we couldn't have like legalised thuggery like from years ago when, do you know, like when I grew up watching the sport, it was tough, Eddie. It was really, really tough. But I remember listening to it was Karen Morehouse actually. She was on TV with an interview with Brian Carney, and she was saying that like we've got to encourage people to play the game, and we can't have this like headshots and all that. And I get it, 100% get it. Like my son plays, my son-in-law plays, and I don't want them to get injured or anything. But it never stopped me from picking up a rugby ball when I used to watch the likes of Steve O'Neill and Kevin Tamati and the Hume brothers. Like it was real physical back then. You're like Big Jim playing, and like no one ever took a backward step. Widnes played Warrington, or Widnes played Saints or Wigan. Oh, they were brutal games back in the late 70s and 80s.
Yeah, but looking back on that and looking at you now, do you want your son and son-in-law to look in the mirror and look like you?
No, but
all those years on.
I think that's just the genes have come from my mum and dad. The reason why I'm ugly is not because of the sport, it's just because of my parents.
Look, it's brilliant talking about the old days and all your memories. It's fantastic. But 2022, we've seen this purge on the legalised thuggery, as you rightly say. I mean, the high shots, they've got to stop it because they're looking after the future of the game and they're looking after the future of the players, because there are players who are suffering with Alzheimer's and dementia, and I get all that.
Yeah, so do I.
The thing is, though, it seems over the past couple of weeks, and I'm talking to Paul Cullen next week, and I'm sure he will say this is not the case, it seems to have dropped off now. We've had 6-7 weeks, 42 yellow cards or red cards in 48 matches. It seems that they've taken a back step because the clubs have now got involved.
Yeah, well, the last 2 or 3 weeks it's definitely been ref differently. There's been more leniency, and it has been a better game to watch. Without shadow, whether we're watching the Super League or Challenge Cup games, it is 100% better. Like, you're playing, we try and speed the game up with 6 agains, and we try and speed the game up, like from years ago, it was like off 5 metres we used to play the defensive line. Now it's off 10. Everything's about getting those quick play the ball. So we're trying to create attack in rugby, but also we want strong defence as well. It's very hard to get the balance right of, if you're trying to play at speed, that if you're defending, you're going to get things wrong. Like big fellas running out the line, coming off, like someone's coming off a slow play the ball, they're going to fly out the line in numbers, and they're going to get sidestepped. Someone's going to use late footwork. You are going to get, it's human nature that if someone's going to try and beat you, you throw your arm out. You won't just not throw your arm out because there's a big gap there. You'll throw your arm out, you'll get things wrong. And I just think that we've got to, or the game's got to be, we can't have it too, when I say sanitised, like people are going, you would say that because...
Well, that was my word, to be fair.
No, but people would say we can't sanitise the game. We play a game, and what frustrates me is when we sell the game and when we sell players like Adrian Morley or Sam Burgess, just to name those two in particular, what we show clips of is them with big shots. What we show clips of is how aggressive they are in defence or running. We take the shoulder charge out of the game, and I know that you and I have talked about this for years.
Yeah, we've agreed to disagree.
But with the shoulder charge, you can see something coming. I'd rather have someone seeing a defender running at me and what he's going to do, rather than someone coming up with a cheap shot from behind. So I would, the shoulder charge, you can have players who play the game who used to like lead with the shoulder when they were carrying the ball, but that's okay to do it. So that was always wrong, and that was always one of those contentious ones that thought, right, okay, so no shoulder charge, let's get on with it. But don't take out of that gladiatorial battle that people used to turn up and pay to go in. They used to turn up in Rome, the Colosseums, to watch gladiators fight and all that. But
you don't want people eaten by lions at the DW
no.
Stadium, do you?
No, we can't have Carl Fitz doing something like that down at Warrington. But people always want to see that, like boxing and UFC. Look how big UFC is now. But surely that if you look at fighters in years and years to come, a lot of them could have claims. Now, I'm not saying that I want to see that in rugby league. Absolutely not. I am not condoning fighting.
I think about Muhammad Ali, for instance. I mean, that was tragic to see, and it's a fine line. I think we all agree with that. It is a fine line that the game has got to tread. The problem is, here we are at Easter. And it seems, pardon the pun, the gloves are off, it's almost back to square one. And this has happened years and years and years gone by, that they have a purge by Easter time. Oh, well, we've tried it, and let's get back to how it used to be.
Let's get back to what the fabric of the sport is. And I've said this a number of times, because people do say, the game's changed from when you played. Yeah, it has changed. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love the game. I don't look at any era thinking, right, and every era was of the time of, like, in Big Jim's day, that's how you played it. In Steve O'Neill's day and Gary Jack's day and all those players, that's how you played the game. This day and age, there's obviously an issue with welfare and care. And I absolutely 100% get it. I don't want to see any youngster turn away from the game because of the way it looks. No. I don't want to see any families walk away from the sport. But the fabric of the game was always, when I was growing up, it was tough. It was relentless. When you played the sport, you would have tussles with opponents. You'd get sent to the sin bin, you'd come back on, you'd always address the referee as yes sir, no sir. You'd knock 10 bells out of each other. After the game, what everyone always said about rugby league, no matter where you went in the country, was, I love the way that you lads are on the field, because you're so respectful to the referee. You'll knock 10 bells out of each other, then you'll go and have a pint after the game.
Yeah. And it will always be like that.
And that was what the game was. Now, like when you see players lying down, faking an injury, oh my God, Eddie, that proper winds me up.
Well, that could be an allegation you could make about other sports as well, and we certainly don't want to go down that route, no. There's no question. But as I say, here we are at the cusp of Easter. Good Friday would not be Good Friday without Wigan Saints, Hull KR.
Yeah.
But looking back to the Challenge Cup weekend, the headline act was Catalan and St Helens. And I thought Saints were going to be given a hell of a run by the Dragons. They're such a good side, aren't they? I said to Eamon McManus a few weeks ago, you're killing this game. You're too good. Yeah. Then they go and lose to Toulouse. Yeah. But, I mean, they are outstanding. Can anybody beat St Helens?
Well, I just think they are phenomenal. Like, they're a well-oiled side. They're a well-oiled club from top to bottom. I look at what Christian Wolf's done. So when Nathan Brown left, ever thought, well, what's going to happen now? Then Justin Holbrook comes in. He has a lot of success with him. Then he leaves, and then everyone's like, what's going to happen now? Are we going to?
Daniel Anderson was the same in 2006. Won everything.
They're brilliant. I've always been in awe of Saints. Do you know, like from?
What is it? What is it about them? Is it the fact they've got the best young programme of getting players through? Because you look at Dodd and Wellesby and Knowles and Lomax, players like this. They just come from nowhere.
Yeah, they get a lot of players from Widnes, I will say that.
We're going to say they get a lot of players from Wigan as well.
Yeah, well, they do a decent job. The sell of the club and what Mike Rush has done for that club over the years. He's had every job. Go in there. He's been a constant at Saints, and I just think that good clubs are built on culture. Good clubs are built on culture. And you can go back to when Wigan had all that success and eight Challenge Cups in a row that they'd won. And then all of a sudden, your young kids that come into the system and taste that success, that if you don't toe the line and you don't step up to the mark, what the senior players expect of you, you'll be shown the door.
Correct. Yeah.
So I think that Saints do it well. I think a lot of clubs do. Like I think Wigan over the last 2 or 3 years have been pretty boring. Up until this season. But the success that the youngsters are having this year is on the back of all that adversity that they've suffered over the last couple of years. Absolutely. Because credit the coaching staff there and Lammy and Matty Pete, and they stuck by the kids. And now I'm looking at some of them young kids that are playing really, really well for Wigan at the top end of the table, when I think years gone by, a lot of them players might have been shown the door. But they did believe in them. Well,
there's loads of Wigan and youngsters, ex-Wigan youngsters, playing for loads of different clubs in the Super League. St Helens, the pinnacle.
Yeah.
The other end of the scale at the moment, we've got Leeds. And I know Jared is there at Leeds, so you probably know a bit about Leeds, and you probably can't talk that much about the Leeds.
He don't talk to me. He don't tell me anything about anything.
No. Well, I'm amazing talk to you anyway. But I mean, Leeds are going through the horrors at the minute. Warrington are going through the horrors at the minute. 5 defeats on a row before the Easter weekend. What's the problem? I mean, the coach is the easy man to blame, but it's the players, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's one of them, isn't it? That people that get the blame. It's crazy, really. I read an interview that Carl Fitzpatrick, the CEO from Warrington, had done about the personal abuse that he was getting and emails he was getting to the club. And it's a real tough one because Daryl Powell, if you look at Warrington, every year you look at Warrington, you always think, right, they're gonna do well then.
This is their year.
This is their year, yeah. So when you look at Warrington's team, yeah, they're missing a couple of big boppers, in my humble opinion. They're missing some big units. But when that team was put together and it's been kept together as well over recently, remember when Toby King was going to be, he was wanted by every club. Like, Carl Fitzpatrick did everything in his power to keep hold of him, and they kept him, managed to keep him at the club. He's not had the same impact as what he was having back then. There's lots of players that Warrington have got that if they were on the market, other clubs would want them because they're good. So at the beginning of this year, I looked at Darryl Powell coming in. I knew that he wasn't going to have an impact straight away. It was virtually impossible because he has to build his brand of rugby and his style of rugby into those players. Now, those players over years gone by under Steve Price and Tony Smith and whoever else that they've had as coach, they'll always revert to type. Like, if things are going wrong, like the game plan that Darryl Powell's trying to implement, I'll tell you, you always revert to type as a player when things are going against you, your back's against the wall. So Darryl, it might take not this year, not next year, it might be 2 or 3 years before Warrington get it right. But going back to the criticism of Carl Fitzpatrick, you look at that Warrington team, you look at the coaching staff assembled at the beginning of the year, you're thinking the top 3 or 4.
Yeah. Do you think they'll still get to top 3 or 4?
No, not unless they have a big change in their form. But when you look at them, you think, right, the top 3 or 4 them, surely they've got to be top 3 or 4. And they're not, and they've lost the last 5. That's nothing to do with the CEO.
No, of course it
That's
isn't.
nothing to do with the CEO. So it's would I say it's out to do with the coach? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't blame Darryl. Sometimes as players, you're accountable. Like George Williams has come across. Everyone would want George Williams. Stephen Ratchford, everyone would want Stephen Ratchford. Darryl Clark, everyone want Darryl Clark. So you go through the side and you think, right, well, they've got players there. Like, in all walks of life, whatever job you do, you'll go through times in your life where you'll have a lack of confidence. And I think that's what Warrington are going through now. And
the same with Leeds.
And I was just going to say, and the same can be said about Leeds. Like, Leeds for the last 3-4 years have been looking and building, and what you would say about Leeds again, that they've had some injuries, they've had some success. Like last year, they got to within 80 minutes of getting to the grand final. They won the Challenge Cup a couple of years ago. When everyone looks at Leeds, they always look at the year Kevin Sinfield, Danny Maguire, Rob Burrow, when they were around.
The golden generation.
Yeah, the success that they've had. And I'm not just saying it because my lads in the system there, they have got some very, very, very talented young kids.
Well, it happened in 1990, and they brought the likes of the players you've just talked about, and Jamie Jones Buchanan, people like that, they brought them through, and look what happened. So it's not doom and gloom.
And it's hard for any club. It's hard for any club and any coach. If you're in a position like Darryl or like Rich Agar was, to give young kids a chance in the first team. Like, everyone's saying, right, okay, well, we've got to make changes, or we've got to get signings. To put a young kid in, you're a very brave coach to put young kids in and give them an opportunity when things aren't going well and they're losing 4 and 5 games on the bounce. And again, I'll go back to Steve O'Neill, and I'll never apologise for it because he taught me so much. You have 3 columns on your board when you're a coach, and you'll have your first team, you'll have your reserves, and you'll have your academy. Steve O'Neill always used to say to me, it's harder to get out of the first team than it is to get in. Right. Said once you get in, you're always in the left column. So they'll always move that left column around of players, play players out position before then they'll go into the other columns to bring them in and then stick with those kids. Interesting.
That's an interesting point. It really is. But at the end of the day, St Helens are going to win everything, aren't they? Whisper that quietly, by the way, if you're ever near Mike Rush and Eamon.
Yeah. Well, as I said, Eddie, if you are the pace setter and you are the one that's sitting pretty at the top of the table, you're the one that's got to be rein back in. It's very hard for anyone at the minute, and I look at that Saints side, and like people say, there's kids that have come through the system that have done a brilliant job, and they've kept them together, and they've not wanted. James Roby's never wanted to go to Australia. Johnny Lomax has never wanted to go to Australia. Other players have left clubs in Super League and wanted to test their arm, But credit to the Saints Club for keeping together a band of players that are like the top of their game. But what I also look at Saints at is the likes of Dan Norman. What I also look at Joe Batchelor, like players that have come from the Championship and they've stepped into a Saints side surrounded by stars and they've not looked out of place.
Alex Walmsley.
Exactly
the same.
There you go.
What a hero he is at the minute.
Yeah.
Look, brilliant to talk to you. How's things at the old place? How's things going at Sky? Why haven't we seen Barry's glitter ball?
No, do you know what? He did a brilliant job.
10 grand he raised, didn't he, personally?
Yeah. He's, obviously I've got a soft spot for him. I would never say that to him. I just portray the act that I don't like him. But he's a brilliant lad. All the stuff that he does for Rob and like that bond that those two have got. And when he said he was going to do it, you can imagine my reaction.
Yeah, like the first word would be, what?
Yeah. And then he did a lot of training.
He flung himself into it.
Yeah, Yeston Harris as well. And there was a lot of actors and actresses that got involved. It was a giggle. We went, and our family, we all went, and we took a table there, and we loved it. We absolutely loved it. And I just went because, like, not just to show me support for Baz, but also intrigue.
You wanted to see him fall flat on his face.
Oh, I would have loved it. I'll be honest. I would have loved it if he would have tried to do the Michael Jackson shuffle and spin around and knock all the speakers over and go flying and take the DJ set out. That would have got a standing ovation from me. But he was really good. And to say that he bought into it. So he did Michael Jackson, didn't he?
You did.
And he did, was it Thriller?
Thriller, yeah.
Yeah, he did Thriller. So he did the lot, and his makeup was brilliant. And
he hates makeup. He hated makeup for the telly.
Yeah, he says that, but look, I've been out with him a few times. But he dyed his hair as well, Eddie. He did an Eddie Hemmings. He died.
Most unfair.
Yeah, he dyed his hair. And anyway, the horrific thing for him is, like, and his wife's a bloody hairdresser. She has her own shop. He couldn't get the dye out the hair. And he sent me a picture. Like, and all of his people that know him over there would have been like that when they saw him walking in. Is this bloke going through a midlife crisis? He's had his teeth done. He's had his teeth whitened. Now he's dyeing his hair. He's pulling a shopping trolley down through Alicante like that. What is going on with these rugby players?
Terry, you're obviously having a ball still at Sky. It's good fun, isn't it? I mean, to get paid, to go to a match, to shout and scream for 80 minutes and come home. It's just a brilliant way of earning your living.
Yeah, it is, Eddie. I'm finding it difficult at the minute with Jared and Brad playing.
Yeah, and, that's Brad Walker who's at Wakefield at the moment.
Yeah. So him and my daughter getting married at the end of the year. I'm sure they'll have kids pretty soon. And like when there was a game last year, and it was Wakefield. It was Leeds and Wakefield. And I come away from the game and I was a bit disappointed because when we do with the man of the match and all that sort of thing, and Jared, mate, I'll be honest, he deserved the man of the match.
Man of the match.
Yeah, but we didn't give it him.
You couldn't give it him.
No,
that's not fair on him.
No, it's not, and it's not fair on him having me, or it's not like in the commentary box or talking and things that you would normally wax lyrical about any young 19-year-old player. Like you're at the point where you think, like I've had great times, in my career. Like I've loved it, but I'm really proud of my family, and sometimes, mate, I think, well, I obviously can't do it for a long time.
It'll be a sad day when you hang the microphone up. It always is.
Yeah, but again, Ed, I'm a custodian of, the microphone. The rugby league will always go on. Like sports will always be on TV. Like when I played the game, I was a custodian in my jersey. I'm a custodian of the microphone. I've loved my time, and also I'll be absolutely honest. I love listening to, like whenever we had guests on, and now I listen to your Kev Browns and Kyle Amos and John Wilkins and Jamie Jones. I love listening to all these new people coming in, and yeah, that like. Life is life and sport is sport, and you get one crack at it. Do you know what I mean? You're born, you're not here for a long time.
Correct.
And I want to make sure that when I do get me wings and I fly off Well, I go up or down. I don't know which way I'm going to go.
You won't need a coat where you're going.
Yeah. But I'll have no regrets on anything, mate, and I'll have been there and I'll have watched my family, and man, that's all you want to do, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
It certainly is. Terry, look, thank you so much for your time today. Very kind of you to be here. I really do appreciate. Thank you very much indeed. Been great to see you. And next week I'll be catching up with another of our old pals, Paul Cullen.
Oh, I'd love to be in that one.
He's chairman of the game's disciplinary panel, as you know, so that'll be interesting to hear from him. We'll get some news on the rules and the crackdown and all that sort of business. But till the next time.
Seriously, no invoice? They would not put any invoice in anywhere?
Don't be silly. Don't be silly.
Is this a freebie?
This is a free... You've had a coffee. Thanks, Tez.
All
and
right, mate.
We'll see you all next week for the next edition, hopefully, of Eddie and Stevo, the podcast.